Hello you fantastic people, welcome back to Borderlands 3. In this video I have my level 65 DAHL Allegiance flak, which I've actually been working on for the last few weeks, but I had to get it done this weekend because that assault rifle right there is a blue rarity Moxie assault rifle by DAHL, which got buffed on Thursday and is now one of the best, if not the best assault rifle in DAHL's already good collection. It's ridiculous. I'm going to start showing some clips on screen for you guys so you can see how much damage not only this assault rifle, but every DAHL weapon almost does nowadays after all the buffs of the recent hotfixes, and by recent I mean probably after the last 3 months or so. Pretty much every DAHL weapon has been buffed to the point where it is at least viable, and a lot of them are some of the best weapons in the game and are so much fun to use. So yeah, as usual for my build videos, I'm going to show you guys the weapons you guys want to get, the best ones that I would recommend, and the ones that probably you just need to wait till they get buffed to start using, the anointments you guys want to get, the gear like the shields, artifacts, class mods, as well as the level 65 skill tree. Not too long in the skill tree this one because it's only a slight variation of my regular rack attack or fadeaway build, whichever one you guys want to use. You can use either action skill for this build, as well as the Mayhem modifiers if you guys are still rocking Mayhem 10. If you're rocking Mayhem 11 like me, then easy. As you guys can probably already tell from the clips, there are so many good DAHL weapons for both bossing and mobbing situations in the game right now, all with like their special abilities or how you use them, which made this build so much fun to put together over the last few weeks because you're always using different weapons. Sometimes with builds, particularly allegiance builds, you have like 1 to 3 weapons that are just like the best and they outshine everything else, and you kind of just stick to those 3 or 1 to 3 weapons. Whereas this one, the DAHL collection is so good and specifically good at particular things. You're always switching up, you're never just stuck to one weapon. It's just a really nice variety of weapons. So much so, fingers crossed I have enough time to showcase every weapon I want to in the clips, because there's that many clips I have to edit. But yeah, jumping into the stuff that you guys need for this build, starting off with the anointments, that is going to depend on how you guys want to rock this build. It is generally a red and green tree build, so you can rock fadeaway or rack attack as much as you guys want. Generally, I switch between 3-shot fadeaway and rack attack depending on whether I'm bossing, mobbing, and what weapon I am using. So depending on what you guys want to rock, if you're using Gorillas in the Mist flak, I would recommend 200% action skill active anointment. For either rack attack or 3-shot fadeaway, I would recommend 100% action skill and damage, or next to mags 100% elemental damage. Either of those two anointments work for either of those two action skill abilities. As for Mayhem modifiers, I'm rocking Mayhem 11 because I cannot be bothered re-rolling modifiers every time I make a build. I have terrible RNG and that takes way too long. But if you guys want to rock Mayhem 10 still, the Mayhem modifiers I would recommend on the very hard modifier would be Holy Crit or Buddy System. Holy Crit if you're really accurate and or using fadeaway, it's a very good modifier to have for flak. If you're using Buddy System, splash damage on a lot of these elemental DAHL assault rifles usually blows up the Buddy System for you anyway, so that's a pretty easy one to use. For the hard modifier and the medium modifier, I would recommend your own Ranger as well as Healy Avenger. I recommend those ones every single time because they're so neutral and easy. Generally, by the time they go to heal anybody, flak's already killed them, so they just do absolutely nothing negative or positive for anyone involved. It's just easy. For the easy modifier, honestly, you guys can choose whatever the heck you guys want. If you want to use Speed Demon to run around super quick, that's perfect. If you guys want to rock a big kick energy, your accuracy will be a little bit more all over the place, but you'll get increased gun damage on top of that, and we like damage over here as flak mains. Up next, we have the weapons, the most important thing for this DAHL Allegiance build because there's so many good ones. Starting off with the Hail. Like I said, this thing is a blue rarity unique weapon you guys can get from Moxie's bar. If you tip her a ton of money, $1,000 at a time, she will eventually send you this weapon. She also sends you the Crit SMG by Maliwan. That's also really good. Video coming on that one tomorrow. But this thing, if you have enough money, just keep tipping her until she gives you a really good roll. I believe it comes in every elemental type, including non-elemental. And this roll is so damn nice. I would highly recommend you guys going for one of these in any and all elemental types. It's really, really good. Up next, we have the Chaos. This thing got buffed just before level 65 level cap came around, and it is ridiculously good. I've showcased it in many different builds. I would highly recommend you guys getting one of these. The Breath of Dying, same story, same buff as the Chaos. It's ridiculous. This thing, if you shoot an enemy or kill an enemy, little blobs of corrosive damage will come out in all different directions of that enemy, and all of those blobs do so much damage. You can one-shot, and I have multiple times one-shot Wotan, the Kraken, the Valkyries, literally everything in the game will get one shot by those blobs. This gun is top tier in the DAHL collection as well. And the Sandhawk, you guys likely already know, Mayhem 6 and above. This thing is disgusting, can take on everything in the entire game. It only has a really bad ammo consumption problem holding it back, but other than that, it's really, really good. In the backpack, we have the Hornet if it wants to show up. There we go. Don't have a fantastic roll, but it is a really good weapon. The Nemesis recently got buffed. It's not fantastic for mobbing, for bossing, sorry, but it's really good for mobbing situations. The Kaozen, if that's how you pronounce it, probably butchering it, but this thing got buffed on Thursday. It didn't work originally, but try it again now. They did fix it, and it is really, really good. I don't have fantastic rolls. That's the best one I have so far, and it is really, really nice in both mobbing and bossing situations. The Shocking AAA, it's alright. It's not a fantastic weapon, but feel free to try it out. The Vanquisher, I found this one whilst doing the melee one takedown. It's not great, not gonna lie. Sliding around is kind of difficult hitting enemies at the same time, but it does do double damage if you're a professional at sliding and shooting people at the same time. The Ripper SMG, I actually have a couple of these in the backpack somewhere. This is the one I was using in the clips, and it one-clipped Traunt, which I did not expect at all. Feel free to try it out. It's a weird mechanic. If you melee enemies, they then take more damage to the bullets from the Ripper than forth. But in mobbing situations, that's kind of annoying to have to stab everything, then start shooting it when other weapons can work at range. The Nighthawken is really, really good. It's not fantastic for bossing situations, but again, mobbing it rocks. The Bloodstarved Beast, this thing is fantastic for everything. Has an ammo consumption problem and also has a very difficult to acquire problem. It's really hard to get and there's multiple different variations, but if you can get a good roll, it's one of the best weapons. The Sleeping Giant is alright in mobbing situations. It's not great for really anything else personally, but feel free to try it out yourselves. The Barrage, again, mobbing situations kind of gun. It does need a little bit of a buff, I think, but it's an alright weapon. The Soul Renderer, I cannot for the life of me get a good roll of this. This is the best I could get, and I have to use Gorillas in the Mist when I prefer to use 3-shot fadeaway. But if you guys can get a good roll, it got buffed recently, and it's really, really good. I would highly recommend. The Chaos, we got a few different rolls in here. It's crazy good. The Good Juju needs a buff. It just doesn't work for anything, if I've got to be honest. I spent a couple hours and got a few extra rolls of the Hail. This is the only corrosive one I have, so if you saw any really good clips of me destroying Wotan with it, that is with a lifesteal anoint. That's how strong this gun is. The Star Helix is really good. Again, got a recent buff and does a ton of damage. I only have Cryo, and this is a shock one with next to Max Fire and destroys Wotan as a shock weapon. That's how strong this thing is as well. The Sandhawks, we have a few different variations in here for the backpack if you guys want to use a save file in the description for you guys. And we have the Malik's Bane, which did get buffed. It's not great, but I just threw it in there anyways because it's a DAHL weapon and I had it on me. As for the shields, I would recommend my favorite shield in the entire game right now is the Frozen Heart. It's just so much fun to use with rack attack. Spamming that thing, freezing everybody, freezing everyone on the field is so good for survivability. It does a ton of damage. It regens your health. It's just a ton of fun to use. Nova Shields are really good with rack attack flak, as I've said in many different videos. So you guys can use Snowshoes, Frozen Hearts, Recharger, Nova Burners, anything you guys want. If you guys want immortality as flak, if you're struggling with survivability, a stopgap with that anoint will make you immortal every 5 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds using rack attack. And if you get used to how it works, you will not down as flak in any situation, I guarantee it. The Transformer is a very easy basic shield you guys can use. And if you want to farm for a really long time for a good bonus, the Old God is a fantastic bossing shield. It's usually what I rock. That's a level 60 one. If you have any level cap different one, just use it anyway. You're only using it for the bonus elemental type, just to shred Graveward a little bit faster, or 20% extra fire damage there. It's a really good shield. For grenades, we are only using cloning or mitosis or regular hunter seekers, whichever one you guys can get your hands on, with relevant elemental ASC anoints on both the shield and the grenade combo. Make sure they are different if you're using not the Frozen Heart. For example, if you're rocking a stopgap with shock, make sure you don't have shock on the grenade. They don't stack elemental ASCs, so make sure you're doing extra damage via that. For class mods, Bounty Hunters all the way. We have a couple of really good ones in here, depending on what situation. We've got DAHL, Sniper, and Weapon. That's so good for the Sandhawk, or just generally any DAHL weapon. And if we have any Assault Rifles, the one on the right here does even more. It's really, really good. Try and get the best class mod you can get. If you guys are lacking damage to anything you see in the clips, 90% of the time it's because of the class mod. Just go for the best one you guys possibly can get. As for artifact, believe it or not, I am not using a pearl primarily for mobbing situations. I'm using a Snowdrift Auto Idol or a Snowdrift Victory Rush. These are base game artifacts and are really, really good. If you want increased survivability, go the Auto Idol like here. If you want increased damage, go for the Victory Rush. They are such good artifacts. Snowdrifts are so much fun for just time saving, zipping around. It's a ton of fun, and it's really good for survivability. I managed to get this absolute god roll on stream last night. It double dips in that cryo damage because it only has 2 passives, and it also has mag size, which is really, really nice. So the Frozen Heart Shield gets huge bonuses from this, and any cryo weapon I'm using gets huge bonuses from this. I'd recommend those if you are using bossing situations. I generally use the Pearl. Feel free to hit me up with any other recommendations for bossing situations. The DAHL weapons, single pellet, they don't benefit from them hugely, but it is definitely better than having a Victory Rush in a bossing situation. Now for the level 65 skill tree for our DAHL Allegiance Flak. I'm going to rock through this pretty quickly because it's pretty similar to most of my Rack Attack or Fadeaway builds with a few different changes. Starting off with Green Tree, if we're rocking Fadeaway, I use the 3-shot, Not My Circus, as well as Unblinking Eye Augments. For the skill tree, points spent, 5 points in Furious Attack, shooting things gives you more damage, 5 points in Overclock for increased fire rate, 3 points in Turntail and Run for health regen, as well as damage reduction while moving, and Standstill if you are shooting things for increased gun damage and fire rate. If you're down to something stupid like barrels or COV rocket launchers or elemental dot damage, put in Look the Wounds because the pet will be able to pick you up in any of those stupid situations, as well as in the middle of battle. If they're still alive, they can pick you up. 3 points Eager to Impress to get you down in the tree later on. It's essentially really good for Rack Attack, getting your action skill back really quickly, just for killing enemies. 3 points in the Fast and the Furious. If you are above half health, which is most of the time if you are up as Flak, you have increased gun damage, pet damage, and movement speed, all chunky amounts. 5 points in Hidden Machine. This one is if you're primarily using Fadeaway. I was using this a ton, so I spec'd into it. If you're only going to use Rack Attack, I wouldn't spec into this one. I'd put more points in Eager to Impress because it only really works for Fadeaway. It's essentially if an enemy has no target or is attacking a different target, you get an increased 30% damage. AKA, if you're in Fadeaway, they're not going to see you, so you're going to get that bonus. Down to the Capstone, the power inside, 1 point in here gets you increase 25% damage on action skill start, and it's an extra 25% being 50 if you are at full health at the time you go into your action skill, Fadeaway or Rack Attack. If you're using Rack Attack, you're spamming that all the time, and you have this bonus all the time, which is really, really nice. Over to Blue Tree, put 3 points into Persistent Hunter for increased gun damage and action skill duration. If you're using Fadeaway, you're getting that bonus. If not, the gun damage is nice. 2 points into Ferocity to increase pet damage. Pet does a chunky amount of damage. They got buffed recently, like 4 months ago. They do a decent amount, so definitely put the 2 points in there. Put 5 points in Frenzy. This thing is a second row of Blue Tree Capstone. It's ridiculous. 5 points plus the 3 we have in my class mod give us 64% extra damage when we're at max stacks. You stack Frenzy by Pet shooting things, or when you have 1 point in He Bites, which we're going to put into, when Pet gets shot, it reflects bullets back at enemies, stacking up Frenzy. So Pet shooting things or Pet getting shot will stack Frenzy, giving this crazy amount of damage, and you have this all the time in bossing and mobbing situations. I'll show you guys how, depending on Pet later on. Then over to Red Tree, if you guys are using Rack Attack for augments, I always use Rack Accelerate, and honestly, any of these 3 are great options. If you have bonus cryo damage like I had on my artifact, that's really good to have extra cryo damage on the racks. If you need health regen, Falconer's Feast is really good, and Flock and Load is really good if you just want to do regularly more damage. More racks means more damage, and they are pretty strong as well because they have been buffed recently. For the skill points spent, always put 3 points in Leave No Trace. Critical hits put bullets back in the mag. It's not fantastic for DAHL weapons because they're not multi-pellet, but it is still definitely worth doing, at least in my opinion. Put 5 points in Interplanetary Stalker. It's a kill skill which gets you increased damage, and it's very, very nice. Put 3 points into Head Count. Critical hits gets your action skill cooldown. You want this all the time because you always want your action skill, whether it be Rack Attack or Fadeaway. It increases your damage, it increases your survivability, and is all around just fun. On top of that, you want to put a couple points into Hunter's Eye. I have 1 extra one from the class mod. Generally, we spec 5 points in here, but I've reduced it because we're using primarily single pallet weapons. So we moved all the points we generally spend in here and put them into Two Fang. Flak has a chance to fire an extra projectile per shot. 25% chance with 5 points spent. That is pretty much just saying a 25% increased damage, because 25% of the time you're going to shoot an extra projectile, doubling your damage 25% overall. 3 points into big game increases your hunt skill duration and skill effects. Any of your hunt skills are kill skills, like Interplanetary Stalker, Frenzy, the Most Dangerous Game being the next one. It's a really good kill skill. Essentially increases your gun damage, crit damage, handling, and pet damage for 2 minutes. It's really nice just for killing a badass or a named enemy, which is awesome. 1 point in Galactic Shadow, really cheap, 15% critical hit damage, very nice. Put 1 point into Megavore, it is the capstone, 20% chance to hit a critical hit anywhere on an enemy's body. That's really good just for damage, as well as getting action skill back with head count, as well as putting bullets back in the mag with Leave No Trace, and just hitting critical hits on enemies that don't have a critical hit spot, like Wotan. As for pet choices, depending on what you guys are doing, in mobbing situations like the Melee 1 takedown, I generally use the Spider Ant Scorcher for their increased elemental damage. The health regen is also really nice. As for all bossing situations, including Wotan of the Melee 1 takedown, I always use the Gunslinger Jabber. He has the fastest fire rate weapon to stack Frenzy. He's a ranged pet, so he will not get curb stomped by Wotan, which every other pet will, which is very important for your survivability, because generally pet is taunting enemies, distracting them from you, but he's also stacking Frenzy, which again, like I said, is 64% extra damage, which you want all the time. The Great Horn Skag is also a really good option for mobbing situations if you guys don't want to use the Spider Ant. He has 10% gun damage and 5% bonus damage, which is really nice if you're not using primarily elemental weapons. Then I'll definitely recommend this guy over the Spider Ant Scorcher. And that is everything I have for my level 65 DAHL Allegiance Flak build. I really hope you guys found this video helpful or enjoyable. If you did, don't forget to smash subscribe down below. It's totally free, helps me out a ton, and I very much do appreciate it. Other than that, we have a Twitch we stream to every night, and we have a Discord with awesome people, both linked in the description for you guys. I really hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys next video and I'll live stream. Till then, adios.